Welcome back to NHL Now. Well, the top story today is that goaltender Carter Hart will be joining the Vegas Golden Knights on a professional tryout contract. For more on that news, NHL insider Frank Seravalli joins us now. Frank, thank you so much. We love the home office, obviously, but what can you tell us about Hart and how he ended up with Vegas?
Guys, I think it's the perfect blend of opportunity and fit. When you think about opportunity, it's not the injury that Adin Hill had this week because Carter Hart can't play in a game until December 1st, but it's also the fact that the Golden Knights maybe weren't necessarily all that sure about their number 2 in Akira Schmid, and so that opened the door for some improvement in the role. And for Carter Hart, he was looking to go to a place where he has an opportunity to win. And then comes the commitment part. You guys mentioned the tryout agreement that Carter Hart arrived in Vegas, joined the team on the ice this afternoon, and began taking shots to start that journey to get back into the league. I think at some point he's going to be willing to go down and play in Henderson in the AHL to get his game in order, and then they'll agree to terms on a contract. So the reason why they did the tryout was that there are a couple different options that are still on the table. I think the Hearts' camp preference is to land on a 2-year deal, get comfortable this season, and then have the opportunity to sign an extension as soon as July 1. But they've still left the door open for a 1-year contract as well. So that's what they're going to sift through over the next few weeks as Carter Hart begins to get his game back in order.
Frank, you broke some news today in reference to Team USA, who's been added to the preliminary roster. There's some changes there, or was there any surprises?
Not really a surprise, Brian, but I think maybe a fix of some omissions that had occurred earlier this year when they held their Olympic orientation camp in August. So back in August, Team USA invited 44 players. So it was 40 skaters and 4 goalies to that orientation camp. And some of the big names that were left off at the time and were huge topics of debate in an otherwise really quiet summer was the Montreal Canadiens defenseman Lane Hudson, and then in net was Thatcher Demko, and up front, Brock Besser. Those 3 were added to the expanded preliminary roster that was submitted as part of this Olympic process. So now it's still probably a long shot that some of those guys end up making the team. This is just sort of the overall pool that Team USA can pull from, and it shows how strong it is when you're able to add a player like Lane Hudson's caliber to that list. But nonetheless, I'm going to keep my eye on Thatcher Demko, guys, because I think that 3rd goalie spot is wide open if Demko can play well, and he's shown that so far to start the season, and he looks pretty healthy as well.
The Board of Governors met Wednesday in New York, and one of the topics that came out of it was the growing concern over the ice situation at the upcoming Milano Cortina Winter Olympic Games. What did the commissioner have to say about it?
Yeah, DZ, I think he hesitated to use the word concern, but certainly a situation that the NHL is monitoring really closely. This is the largest arena indoor that's ever been built in Italy, and it's been a really slow process. And to be fair, the NHL has been voicing concerns about the completion timeline of this arena for a couple years now. Now we're getting closer to the Olympics, just a little more than 100 days out from NHL players taking the ice in Milan. And the arena isn't really that close to getting done. There was supposed to be a test event that occurred in December. The IOC came out this morning and said that they're hoping to hold that test event in January, but that is also not a guarantee. And guys, it's not just about getting the ice and the chiller and the boards all together. It's also all these other tech things, broadcast, concessions, bathrooms, things that all come with opening a new arena. And from the NHL's part, they're probably feeling a little bit hopeless because this isn't their event. This is the IOC's event. But it's something that they're keeping a close eye on because everyone's hoping that this goes off without a hitch.
Problematic.
My blood pressure just went up hearing all that.
Problematic.
They do need to send, I mean, you see what the NHL does with Stadium Series. They can just
send
JJ
Peterka.
In no time. But there you go, JJ Peterka. That is the solution, Frank. Obviously, we know the NHL continues to expand its reach around the world thanks to the NHL Global Series, which we all know and love. And now the NHL is going to be available down under. You're all lucky I didn't say that with an Australian accent because it's terrible. Down under.
Nice.
Wow. Thank you. What more can you tell us, Frank, about this?
Well, in the commissioner's State of the League address to the governors on Wednesday in New York, it was certainly one of the focal points to continue to try and grow the game abroad. And it was exciting to see the news of that new agreement in Australia launched. But the NHL's main focus area is going to continue to be in Europe. So it's not just going to be the global series games that they're going to play here shortly in a few weeks, but also an increased presence, both in television and in different events that they can hold throughout the year. And I think one of the real special things about what the NHL has done in Europe is that they're also really respectful of the foundations and leagues that are already in place there, right? They're not trying to step on the toes of the Finnish league or the Swedish league or whatever it is that you're a fan of, but to find a way to do that and consume the hockey of the very best players on the planet, that's the NHL's focus as they continue to try and grow this from an international perspective.
Frank, I want to ask you about Jacob Markstrom, if the update on that, and also is Tom Fitzgerald thinking maybe I got a couple older goalies? You saw the situation how he got hurt, right? Jake Allen goes in, comes out because of cramping, and you have to put in a 35-year-old Jacob Markstrom to play the third. He ends up getting hurt. Is there anything philosophical they can do, or to maybe just add some depth, or what's the latest on Jacob Markstrom's injury situation?
Yeah, Brian, it's going to be a couple weeks. We're thinking 2 to 3 weeks on the Markstrom file. And, you know, you mentioned the age, but I think they're in really good hands when you can turn to someone like Jake Allen with his pedigree and with his track record in the league. To me, they're one of the best 1-2 tandems in the league in the sense that they're both, relatively equal. Now, moving forward, the interesting thing is going to be to figure out if you're the New Jersey Devils, and you mentioned tweaking this, is with Jacob Markstrom at age 35, the Devils and Markstrom's camp have been talking contract extension for a little while here. I don't know if this injury puts any of that on ice, but at last check, the Markstrom camp had been asking for $20 million on either a 4-year or a 5-year deal. They were comfortable with how they could split it up. And I think at that point in time, it was too rich for the Devils' taste. So they're going to have to figure out, is Markstrom going to continue to be, at least for the foreseeable future, our guy? Or do we need to dip into the pool again after trading for Markstrom to then go out and find someone who can be the next guy? So going to be a situation to watch for sure, but clearly engaging in those conversations. They've liked what they've seen from Markstrom and would like to keep him around.
Staying on goalies, who's going to Milan? Who are the goalies? Team USA, who's going? I got Demko there.
I would include Demko in the mix, and the fact that the Vancouver Canucks gave him the extension that they did, I like him as the third guy over Jeremy Swayman. I mean, I think you have to go Hellebuck, right? And, I know the playoffs left a tough taste in everyone's mouth as you see Demko here, but Hellebuck was darn good in the Four Nations face-off. Yep. I mean, you lose in one shot in OT to the best player in the world. I'm still bringing that guy back to represent Team USA. So Hellebuck won. They're in a real enviable position, I think, with goalies moving forward, guys.
I just think people forget because he's been injured. His ceiling, Thatcher Demko's ceiling, is.
That was a great point. That was a great point. A very good problem to have there for Team USA. Frank, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate your insight.
Thanks, guys.